Professor, can you hear us? Good evening, Professor. Rajna, are you there?
Yes, sir.
You're ready, no?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
1 second. Okay, we'll wait for another 1 minute or 2 minutes. Let
Okay,
everyone
sir.
join.
Okay.
Professor has joined, but we'll check. Professor, are you there? Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, am I audible today?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's clear, sir.
Good. I see Dr. Suraj there.
Good evening,
Hello.
sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, you will be sharing the PPT, no, sir?
Dr. Suraj, I was listening to your preparation for the examination other day. It was nice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Just a little bit of guidance and tips for the students, sir. I hope it will be helpful for them, sir. Sir, is my voice audible, sir? Hello? Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, Suraj.
Yes,
You're
yes,
clearly
sir. Yes.
audible.
Okay.
Vijay, are you there? Dr. Vijay?
Yes, sir. Yes. I'm there.
You also be there with sir, okay?
Yes,
Get the experience needed, okay? Require. You are the future for White Army. Be with sir and get that experience and exposure, okay?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
So, shall we start the session? I think
Yes, Kishan, I think we'll start the session.
no, sir has some technical problem there. I think.
Okay.
Sir, better.
Yeah.
I think, sir, there is some network issue there. If you off your video, then the network will be better, sir. In case if there is a problem.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Hello.
wait a minute.
Sir, shall we share the PPT, sir, so that you may require less data, sir? Is that okay?
Yeah, it should be okay.
Prajna or Suraj, I have sent you the PPTs. Can you please share it?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Suraj, I have sent you through WhatsApp.
Okay, I will
PPT
do it
which
right
sir
now.
has
Just give me 2 minutes. I'll do it.
Okay. Sir, Professor, can you please stop sharing?
Hello.
Now am I audible?
Uh,
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Now am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. So I think there was some technical glitch. I have joined from the two, one from the PC, one from the
Yes, sir.
phone.
Yes, sir.
We will see what works. Okay. Fine. Okay. Good evening, Prajna. Good evening, everyone.
Sir.
Good evening, everyone. Okay. I think
Okay.
it's,
Good evening.
I think I should stop one. Okay. We'll go ahead.
Prajna, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We'll go
Yeah.
ahead. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
I'm Pragna from Kodagu Institute of Medical Sciences. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present case, sir.
Please start presenting, Prajna.
Here is a 71-year-old female, Mrs. XYZ, who is a homemaker and she hails from Arsikere, Hassan district. She belongs to upper lower socioeconomic status according to modified Kuppuswamy classification. She was admitted on 12th of April 2020 and was examined on the same day.
Kishan, shall I share the PPT?
Yeah. You please share. Suraj, you
Okay.
better share.
Okay. Yeah.
I think all your family members attending the session today. Even your wife has joined
Yeah.
to see her sister's performance today. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sharing it, Kishan.
Yeah.
Yes. Pragna, can you see the screen?
Prajna, please continue.
Yeah, please continue.
Sorry for the troubles. Okay, please be confident
Okay,
and
sir.
go slowly. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry for
sir.
the trouble.
She came with chief complaints of cough with expectoration since 2 months, breathlessness since 15 days, and fever since 4 days. History of presenting illness. The patient was apparently normal 2 months ago. Then she developed cough, which was 5 to 6 episodes per day, which has gradually progressed, and now it is throughout the day. It is associated with expectoration, which is white in color, mucoid in consistency, moderate amount, not blood tinged, not foul smelling. There is no positional variation, no diurnal variation. She complains of breathlessness since 15 days. Initially, it was present while walking upstairs. It rapidly worsened, and now she has breathlessness even during day-to-day activities. It aggravates on lying on right side and partially relieves on lying on left side and sitting. There is no history suggestive of orthopnea or PND. There is no history of wheezing. She developed fever since 4 days, which was present throughout the day, not associated with chills or rigors. It was partially relieved on taking paracetamol. There is loss of appetite since 2 months. She complains of significant weight loss, 6 to 8 kgs in past 2 months. There's disturbed sleep since 4 days. She had chest pain 2 months ago, which lasted for 5 to 7 days. It was left-sided catchy pain, would aggravate on taking deep breath or coughing, and would partially relieve on lying on left side. There's no history of any bone pain, abnormal bleeding PV, hematuria, breast lump, or dysphagia. There is no history of trauma to the chest anytime. Past history, she has undergone hysterectomy.
Hello. Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have just joined again with another this thing. So, Pradna, you've taken a good history.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now we have started with the chief complaints of the 3 things. With the you have taken.
Suraj, please go back to chief complaints.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
I've gone through that. No issue. Yeah, chief complaints. She has said about described everything about the cough, isn't it? 5 to
Yes,
6
sir.
episodes of cough per day, which have gradually progressed now, and it is throughout the day. Whether this production has increased over 2 months or it is
Yes.
static.
It has increased, sir. It was mild and it has gradually increased, sir.
Okay. At any time, did she had purulent sputum or hemoptysis, streaky hemoptysis?
No, sir.
Absolutely no. Okay,
No,
fine.
sir.
Okay. Which type of hemoptysis you are more worried about? Suppose if the patient says that I got hemoptysis or blood in the sputum, which type of hemoptysis is more worrying? One patient may say that I have a very scanty hemoptysis, that is frequently called a streaky hemoptysis. That means in the mucoid sputum, not purulent, mucoid sputum, there may be a thin line, hair-like line of the blood. Some patient may come with a clot of blood. Some patient may come with the sputum mixed with the clot of bloods. So which one is more worrisome to you?
Sputum mixed with blood, sir.
No, that's what. Everything is mixed with blood only. One patient has got a... Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Which one is more significant?
I don't know, sir.
Everything is worrisome. I don't say no. Any blood in the sputum, you need to find out, make sure that it is a true hemoptysis. What is true hemoptysis? What is true
Blood.
hemoptysis? What is pseudohemoptysis? What is spurious hemoptysis? Now the chat box, we will end in the end. We will answer after looking into the chat box. Okay, fine. Yeah. What is spurious hemoptysis? What is true hemoptysis? Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Now
I
to call it
don't-
a true hemoptysis, the blood should be originating from the lower respiratory tract. Suppose many of the time we will have the pharyngitis or sinusitis, isn't it? Early morning we get up, we make some noise and bring out some sputum from the sinuses. They may also have the blood in to the common man, it may also appear as hemoptysis, but you should be extra cautious whether the blood has come after coughing from the lower respiratory tract or from the upper respiratory tract. If it is from the upper respiratory tract, it is called as pseudohemoptysis. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then if it is some organism like nocardia and some legionella, all those things may give some reddish color in the sputum. They're called as spurious hemoptysis. They're not true hemoptysis. Okay,
Okay, sir.
fine. Among the hemoptysis, when do you call it massive hemoptysis? Large amount of the blood which is coming out, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Maybe 200 ml or more. Frank blood, frothy blood. So that is very dangerous because they can produce significant aspiration, the ventilation problem, and even blood loss. So that is a massive hemoptysis. But commonly what we come across is a hemoptysis mixed with the blood. That is common in the bronchitis, acute bronchitis, very common. And even in pneumonia, lung abscess, bronchiectasis, all these conditions will produce, or tuberculosis, scanty sputum and blood mixed sputum. Okay.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Audible?
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, in one variety, like in proximal bronchogenic carcinoma, there will be increased sputum production and the blood will be streaky, a hair-like, thin line of blood will be stuck to the sputum, mucoid sputum. That is called a streaky hemoptysis. Whenever you get a streaky hemoptysis, you should, even though it is not alarming to the patient, because it is not alarming to the patient because patient will not worry about that small tinge of blood. But we should be extra cautious to evaluate such streaky hemoptysis to the fullest extent. The commonest cause is bronchogenic malignancies. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. That is about hemoptysis. I just wanted to tell about hemoptysis. Okay. You have told about foul smelling. Okay. What are the causes for the foul smelling sputum?
Anaerobic infections.
No, causes. Okay. Anaerobic infection. What are the conditions? What are the conditions which manifest with the, now we are talking about anatomical condition or the pathological condition, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
What are the clinical settings in which the patient will develop foul smelling sputum?
Lung abscess,
Lung abscess,
bronchiectasis.
bronchiectasis, and empyema with bronchopleural fistula. All these conditions will produce foul smelling sputum. Okay. Now, what clue will you get from the a patient who is having foul smelling sputum or anaerobic infection or necrotizing infection while taking history? Patient may not be able to say, patient may not be able to tell you about foul smell because the patient is accustomed to that smell. Did you get my point?
Yes, sir.
So
Others, foul breath,
what?
which others
No. You have to while talking to the patient, when the patient is breathing, you should be able to grasp that halitosis, isn't it? What is halitosis?
Foul breath.
Okay, foul smelling in the breath. Foul smell in the breath. One of the respiratory causes, all these necrotizing pneumonia. There are so many other causes, but at least you should recognize that. And such patients will have copious sputum. Okay. Why did you talk about postural variation?
In lung abscess, there will be postural variation.
Okay, lung abscess. Only lung abscess. All these three conditions: lung abscess, bronchiectasis on one side, and empyema with bronchopleural fistula. All these things will have postural expectoration. Again, you have mentioned no wheezing at the end of your history of breathlessness.
Oh, sir.
I always recommend to comment the presence or absence of wheeze with the breathlessness. She complains of breathlessness without wheeze. The moment you say without wheeze, it rules out predominantly an airway disease like bronchial asthma, chronic bronchitis, acute bronchitis. Such conditions are ruled out. Not 100%, but most of the time it is ruled out. So that is always helpful to tell at that level itself. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, fine. So you have mentioned that it is only present only for 15 days and it has progressed very rapidly over 15 days. Okay, fine. Aggravates on the lying on right side. What does it mean?
It's Tripopnic, lying, in this case, lying on the healthier side, she has breathlessness.
Okay.
Aggravation of breathlessness.
Okay. So indicating that left-sided disease.
It's left-sided pathology.
Left-sided disease. It is not a mild disease, a massive disease in all the entire left side. Okay, that is one condition. Respiratory, it may be massive pneumothorax, massive hydrothorax, or anything, or mass lesion. Anything can happen that. Even fibrothorax. Everything can produce that. Okay. Can you name any cardiac condition which can produce this kind of trapepnea?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. The ball wall thrombus or the left atrial myxoma. In particular position that the ball-like lesion may obliterate the mitral wall and produce sudden aggravation in the pulmonary venous congestion and produce breathlessness. Okay.
Okay.
So even cardiovascular cause can produce such kind of trapepnea. Okay. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine. So then you said about fever. Fever is only for 4 days.
Yes, sir.
Present throughout date. Okay. Fine. Loss of appetite and significant. When do you call it significant loss of weight?
5% loss of weight in 6 months.
I think it's 10%. You can take it as 10%, 5% in 3 months or 10% in 6 months. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Significant loss is 10%. If it in 3 months, definitely. Now she has lost about 10%. She may be around 75 years, maybe around 50, 60 kg. She has lost significant weight loss. What are the common causes of the significant weight loss?
Carcinoma, tuberculosis.
No. Tuberculosis, okay. Which carcinoma? All carcinomas? Okay, fine. Agreed. All
Anorexia
malignancies.
nervosa.
Anorexia nervosa. Anything else? Can you think of anything else which can other than systemic disease, which can make the patient lose weight. Lymphoma, leukemias, all those things, fine. All malignancy. You have put one basket, malignancies. Okay.
HIV,
HIV, okay, very good.
diabetes,
Immunodeficiency. Diabetes, very good. Diabetes. Thyrotoxicosis.
thyrotoxic.
Okay, fine. Her sleep is disturbed only for 4 days.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Yes, you talked about chest pain in the 2 months duration, which lasted only for 5 to 7 days, which was left-sided, catchy type. All typically tells you that it is a pleuritic type of chest pain, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, why did that pleuritic pain subside within 5-7 days?
Because of development of effusion.
Okay. Now, the moment you say pleuritic type of chest pain is there, what are the possibilities? In any patient who comes with the pleuritic chest pain, what are the conditions which produce pleuritic type of chest pain?
Starting of pneumonia. In the
So it is not
initial
only
stages.
starting of pneumonia, it is in the pneumonia. Yes. Okay. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Pneumonia. That is typically pneumococcal pneumonia, not all pneumonias. Lobar pneumonia involving lower lobe, not in the upper lobe pneumonia. You don't get pleuritic type. So you can say pneumococcal pneumonia. Anything else?
Pleural effusion. Not
Tubercular
effusion.
pleural
Before,
effusion. Okay. Okay. Just at the beginning of pleuritis in the initial stages. Okay. What else?
pulmonary infarction.
Very good. Pulmonary infarction can produce that kind of pleuritic chest pain. Along with that, in pulmonary infarction, what is the other associated symptom? With the pleuritic chest pain, they will have predominant cough and hemoptysis, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
They may have hemoptysis, pulmonary infarction patient. Okay.
Okay, sir.
They may have fever also. And pneumonia patient, they will have pleuritic pain, and within 2-3 days, they start developing purulent sputum. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very typically in pleural effusion, they will not have cough. Even if they have cough, they will have
They'll have dry
typically
cough.
they will have a dry cough, not a expectorant or productive cough.
Yes.
Now, one more thing I would like to highlight here, because she got problems since 2 months, she got trypopnea. We assume that she got some lung lesion on the one side, and she had pleuritic type of chest pain, which is reduced, and she got trypopnea. So we assume that she got pleural effusion. Only one oddity is that she got cough and expectoration. Yes? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. You have asked about the breast lump and hematuria. That's good. Okay, fine. Yes, go ahead with the past history.
Past history. She has undergone hysterectomy when she was 40 years for abnormal excessive bleeding. She was diagnosed with kidney cancer 8 years ago when she had complaints of blood in urine and her right kidney was removed. She is a known case of hypertension since 8 years and is on regular medication. 8 months ago, there was a decrease in voice for which she had consulted a doctor. CT scan was done and was told to have lesions suggestive of cancer and advised further workup. But as the patient was relieved of symptoms, she did not go for further workup.
Okay, 1 second. Now, you have told about kidney cancer 8 years ago, and it was operated. She was healthy. She was on follow-up on medication, something like that?
No, sir. After that, she didn't go for further follow-up or
Okay,
anything.
okay. She was on hypertensive.
Hypertension, she's on medication.
Okay, okay. Now, the currently her illness has started 8 months ago with the decrease in voice. You call it hoarseness of voice, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Hoarseness of voice. What are the causes of hoarseness of voice?
It can be because of laryngitis, upper respiratory tract infection.
Now, what is the duration of this hoarseness of voice? If it is any infective etiology, that will resolve within few days, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It was present for only 1 week. After that, she went and it decreased and she was completely relieved of hoarseness of voice.
No, why did you talk about hoarseness? Somebody is talking about hypothyroid. It is not because of hypothyroidism. Hoarseness of voice is used due to vocal cord paralysis, laryngeal papilloma or tumors, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
in this particular patient with the this thing, what is in your mind?
So it can
Where-
be because of recurrent laryngeal nerve involvement, but in this, because she's
Okay.
relieved of symptom, it may be only an acute infection which has caused hoarseness of voice.
Okay, but the CT was done 8 months ago, had shown some lesion. Where was the lesion? Was it in neck or thorax?
CT thorax, sir.
Thorax. So there was a lesion in the 8 months ago. So her illness has started about 8 months ago.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Patient has relieved of symptoms. So if the patient had thoracic lesion, would it be a central lesion or peripheral lesion? To produce hoarseness of voice.
Central, sir.
Hello. It should be
Hello.
central lesion, isn't it? Or at least mediastinal lesion. Upper lobe lesion. Such thing should be. So if it is a central lesion, upper lobe lesion, what are the manifestations?
Upper lobe lesion will cause Pancoast tumor, in which
Okay, they may have, that is the apical
Horner
segment may have
syndrome.
Pancoast tumor, such things. No, what I'm generally saying is that in the bronchogenic malignancy, there was a tumor in the thorax, scan of the thorax, as far as I understand that now. And the tumors of the lungs or the neoplasia of the lungs are classified into the peripheral neoplasia and centrally placed neoplasia. Agreed?
yes, sir.
Now, the centrally placed neoplasia are the one to manifest initially with symptoms. It is not that you see in the CT scan and they manifest something like that hoarseness. They manifest with the early cough in the course of illness. They manifest the early hemoptysis. They come to the notice very early. Whereas peripheral tumor, like adenocarcinoma, something like that, or large cell carcinoma, bronchial, they will not manifest because they are very periphery. They are all between the alveolus. They do not produce cough. At the most, they will produce some pleuritic pain. Did you get my point?
Yes, sir.
So whenever you come across a patient with some tumor, hello,
Yes, sir.
tumor in the lungs, you need to find out whether it is a central tumor or peripheral tumor. Central tumor will manifest early with the cough, hemoptysis, whereas peripheral tumor will manifest very late. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. One of the common condition which will produce hoarseness of voice in young people, common neoplasia, is lymphomas, Hodgkin's, mediastinal lymph node enlargements. Even all bronchogenic carcinoma, all secondaries can produce that. Okay. Yes, we'll go ahead.
She is not a known case of diabetes, bronchial asthma, epilepsy, or thyroid disorders. There is no history of tuberculosis in the past. Drug history. She is not known to be allergic to any drug. She is on regular medication for hypertension for the past 8 years. She takes beta-log 50 mg twice daily.
Okay, fine. Well-controlled hypertension. Okay. Fine, go ahead.
Personal history. She consumes mixed diet. Her appetite is decreased since 2 months. Sleep is disturbed since 4 days. Bowel and bladder habits are regular and normal. Not a known smoker or chronic alcoholic. There is no history of tobacco use or substance abuse.
Okay, fine. Any passive smoking? Exposure to passive smoking? Because you are talking about somebody who has got a lung lesion, isn't it? And even patient had some renal tumor earlier. You need to take the history of passive smoking as well.
Okay, sir.
Any in the household are
No,
chronically
sir.
smoking?
No, sir.
Yes. No, that is also important. Okay, fine.
Okay, sir. There is no history of tuberculosis, bronchial asthma, malignancy in the members of family.
Okay, fine. Yes, go ahead.
Summary. Here is a 71-year-old lady, Mrs. XYZ, who was operated for renal carcinoma 8 years ago, hypertensive since then, presented with cough with expectoration, weight loss, and loss of appetite of 2 months duration, breathlessness since 15 days with rapid worsening trypopnic in nature, fever since 4 days, with history of pleuritic chest pain of left side 2 months ago, which lasted for 5 to 7 days.
Okay, 1 second. Now, a slight reorganization. Now, 70-year-old lady, known hypertensive or renal cell carcinoma, post-surgical case, hypertensive since then, all fine. Now, here you need to start. The illness started with pleuritic chest pain, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
2 months ago. So
Yes,
you
sir,
can
yes,
say that her illness started about 2 months ago with the pleuritic chest pain, which lasted
Okay.
only for a few days. Then she had cough with expectoration and loss of appetite and significant weight loss.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, fine. Fine. There's nothing much. Some here.
Based on history, it
Yes,
might be
next.
a case. Based on history, it might be a case of yes, sir.
Yes, yes, yes.
Based on history, it might be a case of left-sided pleural effusion. The
One
cause may
second.
be yes, sir.
Yeah. Before going to cause, why do you say it's pleural effusion?
Because there is the breathlessness is trypopnic in nature, and the patient had pleuritic chest pain which was relieved, which lasted only for 5 to 7 days, and it was relieved, and there is rapid worsening of breathlessness. Hello. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, Prajna, but
Okay,
sir
sir.
has
Okay.
some. Okay, one second. You're answering very well. Okay, please continue the same.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Vijay, meanwhile, do you have any questions for her? Vijay?
Sir.
Dr. Vijay?
Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
when you're saying, when you're localizing a lesion to the respiratory system, so you're thinking of this as a parenchymal lesion or an extra parenchymal lesion here?
Parenchymal lesion, sir.
What are the features usually a parenchymal lesion will have?
Cough, sir.
Cough, okay, then?
Sputum production.
Okay.
Cough with sputum.
Hmm. Okay, so these are the predominant symptoms you will usually have. Cough, whenever you have a mucosal involvement, so you will have this cough, expectoration. So those are the common symptoms in a parenchymal lesion. What will be the extra parenchymal lesion? If it is not,
Breathlessness.
okay,
Pleuritic chest pain.
okay, chest pain, breathlessness. What if it is somewhere in the interstitium? How would an interstitial involvement, how would it present?
Breathlessness.
Only breathlessness? Anything else the patient will have?
I don't know, sir.
So whenever the interstitium is involved, you will have a dry cough.
Okay, sir.
So usually it will be presenting a long history of dry cough and progressive breathlessness over the period of time. So that will be the predominant symptom in a interstitial lung disease. So you have covered most of it. You have taken a very comprehensive history.
Thank you, sir.
So why do you say it is only left-sided effusion? Why not a right-sided effusion?
Because the patient breathlessness increases when she lies on right side. It partially relieves when she lies on the left side.
Okay.
So because and pleuritic chest pain was present on left side.
Okay. So that is why you're thinking. Good, good. So it is left side. You're thinking probably it is a left-sided pleural effusion. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
the differentials you're considering are bronchogenic carcinoma, tuberculosis, and metastatic carcinoma. Excellent.
Yes, sir.
So those are spot on. If this was the same patient had acute presentation, same like this, a chest pain.
Yes, sir.
So what would you think of?
Pneumothorax,
Pneumothorax, very good. Then
pulmonary embolism,
excellent.
and if fever was with chills and rigors, it might be pneumonia.
Excellent. So those are the things that should not be missed. So whenever we see in any patient, so there are some things that the diagnosis that should never be missed. These are whatever you mentioned, all of that is things that should not be missed. Okay.
what was going on? Sorry. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What was the discussion going on in between? My connection got
Pleural
disturbed.
effusion, sir. Why left-sided?
Yeah, plural. No. Something was going on. Like something should not be missed. Okay. So you have said about. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, technical interruptions. Okay, you considered old age, rapid weight loss, bronchogenic carcinoma. Hello.
Yes, sir.
You considered bronchogenic carcinoma. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have considered the bronchogenic carcinoma as the one of the cause, primary cause.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why did you consider bronchogenic carcinoma?
Because she's 71 years old and she has
Okay, old age.
And she has rapid weight loss.
Okay.
And bronchogenic carcinoma may cause pleural effusion. So because of weight loss
Which type of all bronchogenic carcinoma will not typically manifest pleural effusion? You know, if you know the manifestation, that's what I was telling in the previous slide. Bronchogenic carcinomas are primarily the location wise they are divided as central tumors and peripheral tumors.
Yes, sir.
Central tumor usually manifests with the cough, expectoration, weight loss, and hemoptysis, whereas peripheral lesions will manifest with the pleuritic rupture, chest pain, and late manifestation. By the time they manifest with the clinically with some problem, they will be quite advanced disease. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now the central tumors are squamous cell carcinomas and small cell carcinomas, whereas peripheral tumors are adenocarcinoma and bronchoalveolar carcinoma,
Okay, sir.
which typically manifest with a copious sputum. Your history does not give any one of them, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So the other possibility is the secondaries. Metastatic carcinoma, you already said, renal cell carcinoma. Patient already is a known case of renal cell carcinoma. She has just underwent, we do not know what was the stage at when she was diagnosed. She has undergone a nephrectomy.
Yes, sir.
And we do not know what she did not had any follow-up. She was not on any medication. Is it a which type of renal cell carcinoma? What are the common type of adult renal cell carcinomas?
Common type of.
Okay, again adenocarcinoma. In that, clear cell carcinoma is the common thing.
Okay, sir.
If they are operated early in the stage 1, when the tumor is inside the capsule, they usually do not metastasize. The very good longevity. 5-year survival is 80%. Now you have said that it is 8 years. So she has crossed that age, isn't it? So still there is a possibility of metastatic carcinoma. The commonest site for the metastasis for the renal cell carcinoma is one of the things is lungs. Okay, so that is possible. Tuberculosis you will not consider in this case, even though of course all patients with a cough of 2 months duration. Mind you, this is a non-purulent sputum, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So that will not produce. Somebody was talking about interstitial lung disease. Interstitial lung disease will not manifest the cough and expectoration. That will not manifest with the pleuritic chest pain. And that will typically manifest the exertional breathlessness. Exertional breathlessness.
Okay.
They are comfortable at rest. That will not produce strepipnea. And they typically, because it's a bilateral disease, that will not produce strepipnea. They typically manifest with the cough, dry cough, and breathlessness on exertion. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. Now you need to consider one more possibility. I think I have put in this thing, pneumonia, because this patient has got cough and expectoration, but the duration for the pneumonia, oddity for pneumonia is 2 months duration without predominant fever and purulent expectoration. Again, that is oddity. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. Anything else? Anyone else would like to contribute? Any of the moderators mentors to contribute?
Please continue, sir. Please continue.
Okay, okay, fine. We'll go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead with the physical examination.
An elderly lady who is moderately built and nourished, conscious, cooperative, and well oriented to time, place, and person. Her pulse is 64 beats per minute, regular, good volume, normal character. All peripheral pulses are felt. Her blood pressure is 110 by 78 millimeters of mercury, measured in right arm in supine position. Her respiratory rate is 28 cycles per minute, which is abdominothoracic.
Yes.
There's
You
no
need to talk about accessory muscles and effort of breathing at rest at this place, because you're talking about respiratory rate, cycles per minute, what is the type. You can tell here itself whether accessory muscles are acting or what is the effort of breathing at rest, all those things. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine.
She is afebrile at the time of examination. She weighs 62 kg. Her height is 156 centimeters and BMI is 25.47 kg per meter square. Pallor is present.
1 second. The moment you say pallor is present, you need to tell there are so many causes for pallor, isn't it? In any case, not only respiratory case, wherever you come across, the moment you say pallor is, what does the pallor indicate? Commonly, presence of anemia, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
There are hundreds of causes for anemia. So at least some common causes should be ruled out. Clinically, can you rule out? The pallor always indicates anemia. Agreed. There are some other causes like ashen pallor, like just before the syncopal attack, all those things. So immediately after pallor, you need to talk about whether with this pallor is associated with the chylomicea, indicating what? Chylomicea and your angular cheilitis, glossitis, will it indicate you about iron deficient anemia?
Yes, anemia.
Pallor in the icterus will indicate probably hemolytic anemia. Pallor with the petechiae, purpura, all those things, sternal tenderness may indicate the leukemia-like things. Generalized lymphadenopathy may indicate lymphoma-like things or leukemia-like things, isn't it? So you should always immediately with the pallor, like you talk about pulse and various things, all peripheral pulse of felt, regular character, many things. Similarly, with the pallor, everyone should make it a habit to mention these things along with the pallor. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now, what would you think this patient has got pallor due to? Because of the nutritional deficiency?
Since 2 months, she has reduced appetite.
But her weight is 62, still 62. Okay. Which nutrition will within 2 months, which nutritional deficiency will produce anemia? Iron deficiency to occur, it takes a long time of nutritional deficiency, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
It has to deplete the iron store. Many things in the stages of iron depletion, isn't it? To the development of anemia. Vitamin B12 or folic acid. Or in this case, okay, rapid development of anemia is a folic acid deficiency, but in this patient, probably anemia of the chronic disease or some significant disease, cytokines, which can suppress the bone marrow. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Go ahead.
There's no cyanosis, no clubbing. There's presence of subcostal scar on right side, which measures 14 centimeter. Presence of transverse lower abdominal scar which measures 10 centimeter. Both the breasts appear normal.
Okay, they are all indicative of old surgeries, doesn't matter. But in this patient, I think you should extra cautious look for the clubbing, because one of your differential diagnoses is bronchogenic carcinoma or metastasis, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So most 90% of all these things will manifest with the clubbing. So you should take extra caution to look for the presence of clubbing with the Lovibond profile sign. You need to look at tangentially and look for the angle. You should look for the fluctuation. Very often you make mistake on looking for fluctuation. You should make the correct technique and look for the fluctuations. If there is any doubt, you can look for the objective evidence. If you have French caliper, you can measure the depth of the distal phalanx at the nail base, that is at the nail fold, and at the distal interphalangeal joint. Always distal interphalangeal joint depth should be more than the depth at the nail base. Okay.
Okay.
If it is or you can take the circumference, or you can draw the the shadow of the finger or the outline of the finger on the paper and measure the distal interphalangeal depth and distal phalangeal depth at the nail base. If the distal phalangeal depth at nail base is more than the distal interphalangeal joint depth, it is always indicative of objective clubbing. Okay, or you can do Shamrock sign, anything, but you should be extra cautious before saying that there are no clubbing in a suspected case of bronchogenic carcinoma of malignancy. That's what I want to highlight. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, fine. And you have told that there was some hoarseness. If it is a local lesion, you should be giving extra caution to the neck mass to look for the neck mass lesion, lymph nodes. Which lymph node you like look into this in this patient?
Cervical.
Cervical, upper deep cervical, posterior cervical group. You should always look for the supraclavicular lymph node.
Okay, sir.
Okay, right supraclavicular lymph node for the lung mass. It drains almost entire right lung and the lower half of the left lung. Okay.
Okay.
So that is a common node to be involved in a lung lesion.
Okay.
And if it is a pleural lesion, empyema, you can look for the axillary nodes. That is also part of the general examination. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So you have said pleural effusion, one of the diagnosis probably pleural effusion. So you should look for the axillary node as well. Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Upper respiratory. Next page.
Examination of respiratory system. Upper respiratory tract. Nasal cavity is normal. Oral cavity is normal. Pharynx appears normal.
Fine. Next.
Examination of lower respiratory system. On inspection, chest is elliptical in shape and chest movements appears to be reduced on left side. Trachea appears to be deviated to right. Intercostal spaces on left side appear full. Apex beat cannot be visualized. There is no use of accessory muscles of respiration. No dilated veins, scars or sinuses. Kyphoscoliosis, drooping of shoulder not present. No visible lymph nodes.
Now, lymph nodes, I think it's a part of which lymph nodes you are looking for, the visible lymph nodes?
Cervical, all full.
No, it should be a part of general examination. Okay. Not
sir.
at this stage. If you want, you can highlight again. There is a palpable supraclavicular or visible, whatever it is. There is no point in saying that no visible at this page. It is a part of the general examination. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. Now, what does it tell you? The reduced chest wall movements on the left side, deviate trachea towards right side, and intercostal spaces appears full. Again, it indicates something.
Reduced movement indicates pathology is on that side, on left side.
Left side. Okay.
Left
it is not
side.
ventilating. It is not, the alveolus is not expanding.
And in this case,
deviation.
deviation to right indicates lesion is on the left. There's lesion.
That is
pleural effusion.
pushing lesion. Pushing lesions are. Can the trachea be deviated to right side normally?
Normally, it can be slightly deviated to right side.
In 20% of people, slight deviation right side is normal. Okay. Was there any trial sign? What is trial
No,
sign?
It was prominence of sternocleidomastoid on the side of deviation because of the pretracheal cervical head
Very
of
good.
sternocleidomastoid.
Fine. What are the condition in which you will get intercostal space appearing full?
In pleural effusion, pneumothorax.
Not all pleural effusion. It should be massive pleural
Massive
effusion,
pleural effusion.
not minimal pleural effusion. Okay, large pleural effusion or large empyema, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What happens in the pleural thickening?
There'll
Even
be
pleural
crowding of the ribs.
There will be crowding and retraction. Intercostal retraction will be there. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. Yes. Next, chest wall movement.
Chest wall movements in supraclavicular, infraclavicular, inframammary, suprascapular, interscapular, and infrascapular region. The movement of chest wall appears to be reduced on left side and normal on right side.
No, when you have such entire area, you can simply say that entire left lung, all areas of left lung. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Movements are diminished. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine.
On palpation, inspectory findings are confirmed. Trachea is deviated to right side. Apex bit cannot be localized. There is no palpable lymph nodes. No intercostal tenderness. Measurements are anterior posterior diameter is 30 cm. Transverse diameter is 38 cm. Chest circumference on expiration is 96 cm and on deep inspiration it is 99 cm. Chest expansion is 3 cm. Right hemithorax measures 49 cm and expands 2.5 cm. Left hemithorax measures 50 cm and expands 0.5 cm. There is
Okay,
reduced
now again,
expansion on left side.
yeah, again, all the findings are confirmed. Tracheotomy right side, apex beat. We have, I think we have discussed about what are the causes for non-palpability of apical impulse. Now, lymph node, again, I will say that it is a part of the neck examination, general examination. Okay,
sir.
not a part of the, at this stage. That's what we practice. If your teachers have said that you have to tell at that place, you can say that definitely no issue. But in general examination, lymph node examination has to be done. Okay,
Okay, sir.
and you can repeat at this place again, no issue. The in spite of the right hemithorax is little 1 centimeter more than the left hemithorax is 1 centimeter more than the right. The expansion is markedly reduced, again indicating that there is a left-sided significant disease. Okay, all the conditions which can produce are pleural effusion, pneumothorax, fibrothorax, pleural, all condition in entire left lung is damaged, or pneumonectomy, such condition, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll go ahead.
Movements of chest wall are reduced in all areas on left side.
Okay, fine, we'll go ahead.
Yes. On percussion, on direct percussion on clavicle, on right side it's resonant and on left it's dull. And indirect percussion anteriorly in supraclavicular, infraclavicular and inframammary region. On right side it's resonant. Chronic isthmus is resonant. Liver dullness from fifth intercostal space in the midclavicular line. On left side there is stony dullness. Trop space is obliterated. Chronic isthmus is dull. Cardiac dullness could not be made out separately. Laterally in axillary.
Now, how do you percuss for the cardiac dullness? What is the technique? You have said cardiac dullness could not be made out separately. That means cardiac dullness is obliterated, isn't it? What are the Hello?
Hello, sir.
Am I audible? How do you percuss
Yes,
for the
sir.
cardiac dullness? Where do you percuss for that? In which position?
I don't know properly.
Okay. Okay. So ideally you percuss on the supine position in the precordium itself. Now there is some specific peculiar, that anterior to the heart, there may be a very small, very thin layer of lungs may be there. Okay, in the periphery at least. Okay.
Okay.
So usually you should do a light percussion on the precordium. Light percussion. Okay. Now usually cardiac dullness will be felt separately. If not felt, it may be a massive mediastinal shift, or it may be empyema, isn't it?
Okay.
Mediastinal shift due to anything like pleural effusion, hydrotherapy, whatever it is. So if you're asked about what is the technique of cardiac dullness, you should talk about in supine position light percussion, not in the same intensity of percussion of the other areas. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Chronic isthmus is dull, indicating that episis is also involved.
Yes, sir.
It's very, very, very okay. Fine. Always chronic isthmus obliteration indicates the episis of the lung getting involved. The common condition is fibrosis.
Okay, sir.
Or collapse. Okay. Stony dullness, commonest thing is pleural effusion. Any type of, okay. Everywhere it is stony dullness, entire things. So you want to say that it is a huge
pleural effusion, massive pleural effusion.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. We'll go ahead. Next.
On auscultation, on right side in anteriorly, laterally and posteriorly, normal vesicular breath sounds are heard. On left side, there is diminished vesicular breath sounds in all areas.
No, that is one thing contradicting to your this thing. Chest wall is not moving, expansion is not there. Still, you are able to hear the vesicular breath sound. If there is a large pleural effusion, what do you anticipate?
Absence of breath sound.
Absence of breath sound. This is one oddity there. There is a diminished breath sound. In spite of dull to percuss, stony dull to percuss, even chronic isthmus deviated. Everything is obliterated. So the diminished vesicular breath sound is something odd. Okay. Did you auscultate about the axilla? Very specifically, in every pleural effusion, you need to auscultate in the axilla. In the axillary area and infraaxillary area, the pleural effusion takes a S-shaped curve, Ellis. So on top of that, the lung gets collapsed. The proximal lung gets collapsed. And that may produce some bronchial breath sound. So you should
Egophony.
carefully auscultate for that.
Okay.
Okay. Even in percussion, even in the percussion, previous slide, please go to previous slide. Okay. Even in the percussion, whenever there is one-sided pleural effusion, you need to carefully percuss for something called a Grocko's triangle.
On the opposite side.
Almost, yeah, a triangular shape. Yes, tell me.
On opposite side, the triangle must be drawn from upper border of the dullness in pleural effusion and up to T10 vertebra, and laterally up to the where the resonant note is felt. If there is mediastinal shift, there will be dullness in that area.
Okay, in this patient, it will be very good to elicit that sign. If there is no such sign, it may indicate that mediastinum is not shifted. Okay, if the cardiac dullness could not be made out. So, or if it is shifted, you can say that posterior mediastinum shifted. Okay, fine. Next page. Yes. And you need to talk about added sounds. You have not mentioned anything about added sounds on the either side. Okay.
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 Fine. Yes.
On systemic examination, cardiovascular system, S1 and S2 are heard, no added sounds. On abdominal examination, it's soft and non-tender. Vowel sounds are normally heard, no mass or fluid. Central nervous system examination, higher mental functions are normal. Motor and sensory system is normal.
Okay. Fine. There is nothing abnormal. Even the abdomen palpation, everything is normal. There is no mass in the abdomen.
No, sir.
Okay. Fine. Yes. Summary.
Summary. A 71-year-old lady, Mrs. XYZ, who was operated for renal carcinoma 8 years ago, presented with she had pleuritic chest
Cough and
pain 2 months.
expectoration. Okay, fine.
Pleuritic chest pain 2 months ago, which resolved within 5 to 7 days. Then she presented with cough with expectoration, loss of appetite, and weight loss for the past 2 months. Breathlessness since 15 days with rapid worsening. Trypopnic in nature and fever since 4 days. On examination, pallor is present, trachea is deviated to right, stony dullness on left side, decreased movement, vocal fremitus, breath sounds, and vocal resonance on left side.
So on oddity is that decreased breath sound. Breath sound is still audible in spite of such a huge. Okay. Did you carefully look for the vocal resonance? What do you anticipate if it is a small pleural effusion covering a large mass or a pneumonia, pneumonia? I think last respiratory class I have told you, it is very classically, egophony is heard.
Okay.
If you think that breath sounds are audible, you need to look for the egophony.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So that is when the thin layer of fluid is covering all the lungs on the all sides. Inside there is a pneumonia or some mass, large mass. In such conditions, this mass or pneumonia is connecting to the proximal bronchus. That will produce something called as egophony. It is not a typical whispering pectoralic.
Yes,
A will be heard as E, AE, egophony. Okay. Or as if somebody is talking with the nostrils being closed, nasal twang. That kind of voice will be heard. Okay. So that if that is there, it indicates that there is some solid lung tissue inside.
Okay, sir.
But in a large hydrothorax or pleural effusion, you don't anticipate any vocal fremitus or vocal resonance at all. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. I think you have good slides. Yeah, you go ahead. Next slide.
Provisional diagnosis. It's a case of left-sided massive pleural effusion.
Oh, that massive. Okay, fine.
Points in favor are based on history. There's pleuritic chest pain, trypopnea, and
initial pleuritic chest pain. Okay.
Initial pleuritic chest pain, trypopnea, and rapid worsening of breathlessness. Based on examination, trachea is deviated to the opposite side, that's to right side, and intercostal spaces are full
now,
on left side.
One second. That pleuritic chest pain, trypopnea, rapid worsening of breathlessness, if you do not mention the thing, it can occur even in a sudden destruction of the lung as well. Okay. Sudden collapse of the lung. It can occur in the multiple episodes of infarction, one-sided infarction, pulmonary infarction. All those things can also manifest the same way. Okay.
Based
Fine,
on
go ahead.
based on examination, trachea is deviated to right side. Intercostal spaces are full on left side. There is reduced chest movement and expansion on left side. Stony dullness on percussion on left side. There's reduced breath sounds, vocal resonance, and vocal fremitus on left side.
Good. So again, my point is again reduced percent. I made mark it red.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So that is one oddity there. Yes. Next slide.
Points against are based on history. The patient has cough with expectoration since 2 months.
Okay. Once
Wait.
again, you need to explain this because her predominant symptom, the first symptom you have explained is cough with expectoration since 2 months. So you need to give some explanation for this. What could be the reason?
Bronchogenic carcinoma.
Still, again, if I say that you have said that there is something like, so what is that? Breath sounds are audible and cough is. Yes, there should be some lesion inside the lung, tracheobronchial tree or the lung parenchyma. There should be some lesion to produce cough. Typically, pleura, it may have cough, but not expectoration. Dry cough is possible because of stimulation of nerve endings, but not the expectoration. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So that is against the pure pleural effusion. I do agree with you. Yes.
Based on examination, mediastinal shift could not be assessed. Not be made.
Okay.
The causes might be
So it is not. So it is not a pure pleural effusion. There is something you need to highlight here that she has all features of pleural effusion,
collapse
but
on the same
I'm not
side.
able to explain the cough and expectoration of 2 months duration. So there must be some parenchymal lesion as well, because the findings are obscured by the pleural effusion. That is what you can explain further. Okay,
Okay, sir.
that's good. Okay, fine.
The causes might be, it may be bronchogenic carcinoma considering
Now,
age.
once you said that it is pleural, one slide go back. If you have said only pleural effusion, massive pleural effusion without parenchymal thing, you cannot go to the bronchogenic carcinoma, isn't it? So it is always wise to say that when the patient has got cough and expectoration, you can also say that there may be some parenchymal lesion. Under such condition, bronchogenic carcinoma is the one differential diagnosis. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Next.
For bronchogenic carcinoma, considering age, sex,
Yes.
non-smoking history, and rapidity of symptoms, and history of abnormal CT chest 8 months ago, it might be adenocarcinoma.
Why did you say adenocarcinoma? It
Because
could be other carcinoma.
other carcinomas are more common in smokers and.
It doesn't matter. That is not the only issue. Because in spite of 8 months, see the natural history of the bronchogenic carcinoma, if it is central carcinoma, they continue to have the symptoms and they rapidly deteriorate. They come to the attention quite early. Now, like peripheral tumors will take longer time to manifest. Okay. So in spite of 8 months back, she was asymptomatic till for the 6 months, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That indicates it's a slow growing tumor and peripheral tumor. If it was central tumor, growing tumor, bronchogenic tumor, you should produce bronchial obstruction. And it may produce collapse, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
It can produce more symptoms quite early on. Okay, fine.
Metastatic lung disease, considering history of nephrectomy for renal carcinoma and history of abnormal CT just 8 months ago, metastatic cause may be considered.
Okay. Does the renal carcinoma produce solitary lung metastasis or multiple metastases? Central metastasis, peripheral metastasis?
Don't know.
Okay, fine. Doesn't matter. It is not required for you. But anyway, renal cell carcinoma typically produces single solitary peripheral metastasis. It can manifest with the multiple metastases as well, but commonly it is a single metastasis. Okay. That is good differential diagnosis. Yes, go ahead.
And another cause may be tuberculosis.
Maybe tuberculosis. Okay, fine. At this age, without fever, without night sweats, without other, isn't it? She only has got anorexia, weight loss, cough, no hemoptysis, no purulent sputum. Okay. Is it pleural tuberculosis or pulmonary tuberculosis? Which one are you talking about? Pulmonary tuberculosis, extrapulmonary tuberculosis? Be specific. Pulmonary tuberculosis. Primary, secondary, progressive. There are so many varieties of tuberculosis, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So simple tuberculosis is not enough. You need to highlight because you said pleural effusion. So there is a pleural involvement is there. So it may be secondary progressive pulmonary tuberculosis with pleural effusion. But there are so many oddities for the absence of fever, night sweats, and other things, or evening raise of temperature. Okay,
Okay, sir.
fine. Next.
Differential diagnosis. Fibrothorax. The points in favor are there is dull note and percussion on left side, reduced movement on the affected side, and diminished vesicular breath sounds with diminished vocal resonance on the left side. Points against are there is rapidity of onset, left intercostal space fullness is present, and left hemithorax is more than right hemithorax. And there is absence of crowding of ribs or with drooping of shoulder. Second one, it may be thickened pleura. The points in favor, there is dull note and percussion, diminished vesicular breath sounds, and vocal resonance. Points against are there is no history of pleural effusion in the past. There is left intercostal space fullness, a rapid progression of symptoms, and tracheal deviation.
Okay, now your diagnosis of fibrothorax is excellent one. What is fibrothorax now?
It is diffuse pleural thickening.
No, fibrothorax. I'm not one slide backwards. Fibrothorax.
Entire lung is surrounded by fibrotic pleura.
Okay, so what is the difference between the fibrothorax and thickened pleura? You have given two things, no? Fibrothorax and thickened pleura.
Yes, sir.
Both are same or different one?
Difference, sir.
What is the difference? Now, I thought you have talking about fibrosis of the entire lungs.
Pleura, sir.
Okay, fine. Fine. So that should, to produce fibrothorax, there should be some reason, no? There was, yes, you have said that you have given the points. Okay, fine. Go ahead. That is right. But if the previous thing, the fibrothorax, can also be said in a patient who has got a pre-existing disease, like tuberculosis or having significant fibrosis, fibrocavitary lesion, fibrosis, and other things. Okay, there are so many oddities point against, like volume loss signs are not there, and to produce fibrosis, significant fibrosis, one-sided fibrosis, there should have been past history of some disease, like tuberculosis. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thickened pleura, yes. Next is your thing is empyema.
Empyema, sir.
Yes.
Points in favor, there is dull note and percussion, reduced breath sounds, vocal resonance, and vocal fremitus. Points against, the patient is non-toxic. Fever is not associated with chills and rigors, and there is absence of intercostal tenderness.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. What are the other conditions which produce intercostal tenderness? Empyema is one classical condition which produces intercostal tenderness. What other condition can produce intercostal tenderness? Any idea?
No, sir.
Okay. There is something called as pleural malignancy. It is not bronchogenic carcinoma. Pleural malignancy. Pleural mesothelioma.
Yes, yes.
Okay. That also can manifest the similar way.
Asbestos
Pleural
exposure will be present.
Yeah, pleural mesothelioma can manifest with the same way. That is more common in the females. Unilateral. They can present with the pleuritic chest pain. They can present with the dry cough. They can present with the intercostal tenderness. All your findings can hold to the same thing to the pleural mesothelioma as well. But that commonly occurs in the little younger age group. Younger age group. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, fine. Yes, massive. Next slide.
Massive consolidation. Points in favor is dullness and percussion, history of cough with expectoration. Points against, the patient is non-toxic. It's not an acute presentation, and there is shifting of trachea to the opposite side. Absence of tubular breathing and involvement of whole of lung.
Excellent. So all are accepted. Fine. Very good. Good discussion point there. Yes. So we all agree that she has presented a good case, and she has elicited some findings which are audited, some with some oddities, but that is acceptable. But good case and good way of discussion. This is the way to sort out the problems. You need to tell about based on what history and what findings you include one particular different condition, and based on what are the points against such a diagnosis. So this at least 2-3 differential diagnosis is very good. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, investigations. You have mentioned so many investigations.
routine blood investigations.
What do you anticipate in routine blood investigation?
In
It is
this,
not simply, yeah, you need to tell
ESR
what
might be raised. ESR.
ESR is raised in bronchogenic carcinoma, tuberculosis. Okay,
Yes, sir.
fine. What else?
And
if- You have said the anemia, no? Pallor was there. Which
Yes,
type
sir.
of anemia would you anticipate in this patient? You can look at the hemoglobin is low. MCV, you can look at it. If it is MCV is quite low, 60 and less, it could be iron deficiency anemia. And you need to look for the RDW. That we'll discuss sometime. No issue. But what I want to stress upon is that if it is tumor induced or cytokine induced, chronic disease induced, it will anemia. It will produce normocytic, normochromic anemia. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. Chest X-ray will tell you what is the lesion, whether it is a white lesion or mixed densities are there. Is it a parenchymal lesion, pleural lesion? All those things can be said. Okay. I think we have a X-ray further. We'll look into that. You need to do the pleural aspiration. We'll come to that again. Sputum examination, because this patient got a sputum expectoration. You need to always do the sputum examination for gram staining. And the cytology, sputum cytology is very important. When you said the sputum is come from the lower respiratory tract, it's not saliva. I think last time we have.
There should be less squamous cells.
They should be okay. They should be.
Epithelial.
Okay. Epithelial cells should be there. Okay. At least more than 20-25 epithelial cells should be there. Okay. CT thorax, pleural. What is the advantage of CT thorax over that? Will come back. Pleural biopsy. Okay. Fine. Treatment. We'll come back to the treatment. Of course, for everything you need to find out the cause and treat it. Okay. We'll come back. Now you read about this X-ray. Read this X-ray. We have the X-rays of this patient.
Yes, sir. This patient X-ray.
Okay. You have captured this X-ray.
I took it. Yes, sir.
Did you take the picture of this X-ray? I mean, this patient's X-ray.
Yes, sir.
It's slightly tangential. It's slightly oblique. You cannot take a little more. What does it say?
It's a plain X-ray.
Okay.
It shows
plain X-ray. Chest,
plain X-ray of
plain
chest.
X-ray of chest. PA view.
PA view.
Why did you say it's PA view? Because the scapulas are outside. Clavicles appear anteriorly, isn't it? And there is a apical lung shadows seen above the clavicle, isn't it? Those are the 3 points.
Okay, sir.
Okay, fine. Then
And trachea is deviated to right side.
absolutely no. Trachea is central. You can see up to the clavicle. You can see up to the clavicle. Trachea appears central. Trachea is not deviated. Up to the clavicle, you see, trachea is up to the clavicle. And beyond that, it divides into the 2 bronchi.
Okay, sir.
Even you can see the spinous process through this thing. Up to 3rd spinous process, adequately exposed X-ray this. Okay. Trachea is not deviated. That is one oddity here. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And you see the uniform homogeneous opacity, which is indicative of pleural effusion. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Obliteration of the CP angle. The cardia is slightly pushed to the opposite side, to the right side. Whereas other side, the lung appears slightly hyperinflated. There is composite emphysema.
Okay, sir.
The diaphragm on the right side appears normal, whereas left side diaphragm cannot be made out.
Okay.
That is Shillot sign. Again, there is something which is occluding that. The cardiac border on the right side can be seen, but left side it cannot be seen. Again, is Shillot sign there, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
But you cannot make out the collapsed lung. The entire thing, the fluid, even though if the fluid is there, you cannot make out the lung border at all. Right side, it is all. I cannot see any air bronchogram there. I cannot see a collapsed lung there. But still, the trachea, the proximal trachea or the upper trachea, upper airway is not deviated. Now that always tells us that there is pleural effusion, but there is
Collapse on
inside the lungs is collapsed there or compressed there, and the mediastinum is almost fixed. It is not pushing to the other side, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So that is always a picture in the collapse consolidation with pleural effusion, or a bronchogenic malignancy with the endobronchial tumor with the collapse and second pleural effusion. Such conditions. mediastinum will be fixed. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. Anything else you would like to add on this X-ray? Any bone erosions? Any lymph nodes? Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. So that is good. So there is hydrothorax is there, but it is not only hydrothorax. There is something else, either a mass or collapse or something like that, which is not allowing the mediastinum to pushing to the other side. Okay. So that is what. So what are the causes for the pleural effusion without mediastinum shift? In what are the conditions in which pleural effusion will be present?
Collapse,
But
pleural effusion with collapse on the same side.
ipsilateral collapse or the fibrosis also no issue, or previous resection is also fine. Anything else? If suppose if there is a minimal pleural effusion, isn't it, on one side,
Mm.
it will not shift the mediastinum, isn't it? Simple answer. Similarly, if there is a bilateral pleural effusion, mediastinum will not be shifted. So the common conditions are minimal pleural effusion, bilateral pleural effusion, or pleural effusion with the other lesion, pulling lesion, like fibrosis or collapse. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Or the mediastinum is fixed by the tumor, posterior mediastinum is fixed. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine. We'll go to the next slide. Next slide. Yes, what is there? You have, somebody has done the pleural aspiration. You know, the thoracosynthesis has to be done in the sitting
Upper border
posture.
of lower limb.
Yeah. Usually it's done in the infrascapular space, just below the angle of the scapula,
Okay, sir.
lateral scapular line. Okay, with the aseptic precaution, it should be done aseptic sitting posture, leaning forward. Patient should be comfortable. Anesthesia should be local anesthesia is usually given, and minimum of 50 ml has to be aspirated for diagnosis. Okay, you can see various things. Pleural fluid color, they have said hazy, pale yellow, hazy. So that is turbid fluid. Protein is 4.3 grams. That is definitely exudate, high protein there. Sugar is 58, little less. We do not have the corresponding blood sugar. We should be almost about 1/3 of the blood sugar. If it is less than that, it's called as low sugar.
Okay, sir.
The cell counts are 1500, and smear shows that clusters of large oval cells, large pleomorphic, hyperchromatic. They're all neoplastic cells.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they all say that there is a neoplastic, the like cytology. Okay, fine. Then pleural fluid LDH, we do not have it here, which is required. ADA they have done, which is 24 less, which rules out tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis.
Not 100%, but anyway, pleural fluid nucleic acid amplification test also can be done. But once we have found out the neoplastic cells, we need not do for the nucleic acid amplification test. Okay, fine. So the questions are, what are the types of pleural effusion?
It can be transudate or exudate.
Yes, transudate or exudate.
And
now transudative, exudative, empyema, hemorrhagic effusion, there are so many other types as well. Okay. Now I think we all know that how to differentiate transudative, exudative. We'll come back to that a little later. What are the things? What are the mechanisms of pleural effusion? Increased hydrostatic pressure, decreased oncotic pressure, increased vascular permeability, decreased lymphatic drainage. Those are the static for every edema. But in addition to that, in pleural effusion, there is negative intrathoracic pressure, isn't it? Negative pressure in the pleural space.
yes.
Because entire thoracic cage has got a negative pressure. So that is transmitted to the pleural space as well. So that will enhance the pleural effusion as well. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So I think you pass on to the next slide. Next slide. Next slide. One more slide. One more slide. One more plus. Yes, those are the mechanisms. Yes, one more. Press again. Yes. I think yes. Now, what are the causes of pleural effusion? Common things are pneumonias, tuberculosis, pulmonary infarction. These are a little rare in our settings. Malignant disease. Cardiac failure is one of the common cause for the pleural effusion. Okay. In another class, I was telling about, or I was asking about why right side pleural effusion more common. Transudate effusions are more common in the right side, isn't it? Any idea? So any left-sided pleural effusion or any so-called pleural effusion with the history of pleuritis, you should always think it should be exudative. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
So transudative pleural effusion will never produce pleuritic pain. Transudative pleural effusion will never produce pleuritic pain. Make it very clear. If you get a history of pleuritic pain and there is evidence of pleural effusion, that should be a exudative pleural effusion. Okay. So transudative pleural effusion, especially in cardiac failure, is more common to appear early in the right side. Of course, it may appear on the left side also later on, but it appears early on the right side because, you know, the lung volume, right side, we have 3 lobes of the lung and volume of the lung is very much high. And there is 3 lobes are covered by the and large area of the parietal pleura and visceral pleura, not parietal pleura, visceral pleura. So all these, whenever this hydrostatic pressure increases in the pulmonary veins and pulmonary vessels, they exude. On the weight basis, left lung is at least 20% less than the right lung. So the pleural surface is also more on the right side. So whenever there is transudation, where the negative pressure is more on the right side and the pleural effusion starts on the right side. It is not just because of the ascitic fluid goes into the right side because of the fenestration, but in cardiac failure, it is more because of the pressure changes. The volume on the surface area of the pleura is at least 20 to 30% higher on the right side because there are transverse fissure as well. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So that increased hydrostatic pressure, in addition to the negative intrathoracic pressure, makes the early pleural effusion on the right side. But that may not be true in other conditions as well. Okay. So almost all transudative pleural effusion appear first on the right side. Okay. But any pleural effusion on the left side appearing first, you should always think that it is a exudative pleural effusion. Any pleural effusion which starts with the pleuritic pain also should be thought of exudative pleural effusion. And rare conditions like Meeks syndrome, mixed edema, uremia, many conditions, connectivity disorders and other things are there. Okay. What is Light's criteria?
Pleural fluid LDH, pleural fluid protein by serum protein should be less than 0.5.
You can shift next slide. Shift next slide.
And pleural fluid LDH by serum LDH should be less than 0.6 in transudate. And pleural fluid LDH might be less than 2/3 of normal.
Yes. You can shift one more slide. One more slide. One more. Yes. No. Previous. Yes. Light's criteria. So it's presence of any one of them, LDH and protein you need to look for. Presence of any one of them. Pleural fluid LDH ratio of more than 0.6 or absolute LDH more than 2000 or pleural fluid to serum protein ratio more than 0.5. Any one of those things is indicative exudative. But there are some fallacies. In a chronic cardiac failure, please remember, in a chronic cardiac failure who is on diuretic therapy, this Light criteria may become positive. In such condition, you need to look for like your SAG, you need to look for the serum to pleural fluid gradient, albumin gradient or protein gradient. If it is high, it indicates transudative. Okay?
Yes.
Fine. And there are other conditions to look for, sugar and other things. Okay. And, okay. Next slide. Next slide. Yes. Next. That I think I have already explained that.
Yes, sir.
What are how much quantity is required to clinically detect pleural effusion? Clinical detection. Your chest expansion reduction, dull to percuss. Sorry, 300 ml to 500 ml. Okay, fine, agreed. Signs of pleural effusion we have all seen in this case, very classical case. Chest wall decrease movement, tracheal shift to the opposite side, dull to percuss, decreased vocal fermentus, and absent breath sounds without any added sounds. Okay, next slide. Next. The reason for the bronchial press sound in pleural effusion? Reason for the bronchial press in pleural effusion? Already I have explained. Yeah, just above the level of pleural effusion because of the collapsed lung, which may be connecting to the proximal bronchus. That is the reason. Okay, or it may be synemonic. Okay. Next, what do you mean by lamellar effusion? These are the common questions asked. Maybe may not be for UGs, but for the PGs. What is the lamellar effusion? Similar to there is something called a subpulmonic effusion, isn't it? Subpulmonic effusion, very minimal effusion, which is just above the diaphragm. That is called a subpulmonic effusion, which may be missed by X-ray also. But lamellar effusion is that in the lateral thoracic wall, maybe thin layer of the fluid may be there. Okay. Instead of obliterating the costophrenic angle, the fluid is in the lateral aspect only. That is called as lamellar effusion. Okay. Very common in the cardiac failure. Now, what are the indications for the thoracosynthesis, diagnostic thoracosynthesis? Next slide. In the right pleural effusion, right side pleural effusion. Left-sided, every left-side pleural effusion, if it is more than 10 millimeter on a lateral decubitus X-ray, you should do the diagnostic thoracosynthesis. But in right side, not all right-sided pleural effusion, isolated right-side pleural effusion, you need not do the thoracosynthesis. There are some indication. Commonly, the causes are transudative. So commonly, you can find out are there any features of cardiac failure. If there is cardiac failure in right-side pleural effusion, you need not do the thoracosynthesis. If there is nephrotic syndrome, cirrhosis, you need not do. Okay. Indications are there in the right side pleural effusion if there is pleuritic pain, or if there is a fever or leukocytosis, polymorphonuclear. In such condition, you may have to do the thoracosynthesis. Agreed?
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, you need not do in the right side, isolate right side. Now, next slide. Now, this is the classical chest X-ray of the pleural effusion. Previously, we have seen entire this thing. This is minimal obliteration of the right costophrenic angle with a homogeneous opacity, and left diaphragm is not visible. Trachea is not slightly deviated. Even the slight, see this slight pleural effusion, it has been deviated, and there is some collapse. Okay. Now, next slide, please. And whenever you have pleural effusion, you need to make the patient, if you have suspicion of pleural effusion, if it is obvious like the obliteration of costophrenic angle, you need not do. But if it is very suspicion, you may take the lateral X-ray, or you can, it is better to do a lateral decubitus view. You make the patient lie on the lateral position, the dependent portion on the pleural effusion side, and expose from the posterior anterior view, PA view. And the pleural effusion will be all shifting to the proximally dependent portion. That will pick up. And from the medial side of the inner side of the thoracic wall, you need to find out how much is the height, maximum height. If it is more than 10 millimeter, that means 1 centimeter, that has to be diagnosed with the thoracosynthesis. If it is very minimal, one line, it is not. So in lamellar effusion, if I turn this X-ray, the right-sided X-ray on the straight way, the lamellar effusion will appear like that. Okay, fine. Next slide. So differential diagnosis for the pleural effusion may be raised hemidiaphragm, which may look like homogeneous opacity. On the right side, it may be hepatomegaly or right phalanx palsy. It may be collapse consolidation. Sometimes you may miss the, sometimes pleural thickening in the case of old tuberculosis, empyema, or due to the poor radiographic. Those are the common differential diagnosis. Hello, can we go ahead? Hello, Dr.
Yes,
Kishan? Dr. Kishan, can we go ahead for another 10-15 minutes, or we should stop it here?
You can go ahead.
Yes,
sir.
please, sir. Till 8 o'clock we have time.
Yes, we'll go ahead. So
It's a very important topic, sir. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, next slide, please. So the importance of CT. What is the, so now in this patient, if you take the X-ray, you may not feel anything. You may not see, you will see only pleural effusion. You will not see the proximal inside. What is the lung lesion there? Now you can see there is a dependent portion. There is a plenty of effusion, and proximal to that collapsed lung and consolidation. There may be mass lesion there, isn't it? So CT has got a very good role to find out the reason for the pleural effusion. Is it pleural thickening? Is it large pleural effusion? Is it mass inside there, consolidation there, or tumor there? Everything can be picked up by the CT scan. Okay, fine. Next slide, please. Like ultrasound, like chest X-ray, ultrasound also gives a very good role, very good sign of the pleural effusion. Many often we recognize minimal pleural effusion when we send the patient for the abdominal ultrasound. They can see a minimal, even 5 to 10 ml of collection of fluid in the the rhesus, pleural fluid can be picked up by the ultrasound. Very sensitive. It is not only to find out the presence of pleural effusion. Again, it will help to quantify mild, moderate, severe. It can also, by the various formulas, you can quantify the exact amount of pleural fluid present in the thoracic cavity, pleural cavity. The transudative pleural fluid will be very clear by they are not echogenic. The pleural fluid, presence of fluid in the pleural space will give a black appearance on the ultrasound. In the X-ray, it will give white appearance. In the ultrasound, it will give black appearance. And if there are turbidities, slightest movement will show the turbidity, echogenicity, free-flowing echogenicity inside the fluid. Always tells us that it may be exudative pleural effusion. And if you can see some strands like this, it may indicate that exudative severe protein is there. It may be resolving hematoma, hemorrhagic pleural effusion, or tubercular pleural effusion, or malignant pleural effusion, where all the high protein content is making like it's a flagell-like things, moving flagell-like things, fibrinous strands. And of course, ultrasound also will help us to guide for the thoracosynthesis, where is the maximum correction. It will also help us to find out whether it is a loculated pleural effusion, multiple loculations are there, such things. Okay. So ultrasound also is a very useful tool. So I was telling you that indication for thoracosynthesis, all left, next slide please. All left-sided pleural effusion has to be evaluated by the thoracosynthesis. Find out what is the reason. Is it a transudative, exudative? You have set of cause for the exudative. We have set up the causes for the transudative. If the pleural effusion of unknown etiology more than 10 millimeter depth on lateral decubitus X-ray, it is a definite indication. Sometimes it may be therapeutic. Sometimes the patient who has got severe breathlessness because of large pleural effusion, like in our patient, today's patient, you may have to therapeutically remove the pleural effusion. But you should be extra cautious when you remove large quantity of pleural effusion, all of a sudden, rapidly, over 1 liter, it may produce increased breathlessness, called as Pradna?
It may cause pulmonary edema, sir.
It can produce pulmonary edema. Okay, reactive pulmonary edema or re-expansion pulmonary edema. So it should be extra cautious. In all empyema, it's a mandatory. Hydropneumothorax is mandatory. Thoracosis. The position should be this way. Okay, fine. Next slide, please. The cause of when we many of time when we aspirate, it may be bloody pleural effusion, pleural fluid. Ideally you should look for the hematocrit in that pleural fluid. If it is less than 1%, it is not significant hemorrhagic pleural effusion. If it is 1 to 20%, hematocrit of that pleural fluid is 1 to 20%, it indicates it's a malignant pleural effusion or pulmonary infarction or traumatic aspiration or post-traumatic aspiration. Okay. If the hematocrit of the pleural fluid is more than 50%, it is indicative of hemothorax when compared to the serum HCT. Okay. So, for example, you have this serum hematocrit 38%, the pleural fluid hematocrit 20%. It indicative of hemothorax. Okay. So it is comparison to the blood hematocrit. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. So suppose if you get a cloudy, like white milky like thing, cloudy or milky like thing, it is called as chylous pleural effusion, chylothorax or chylous pleural effusion. Okay. Now there are two things, chylous and pseudochylous, chylothorax and pseudochylothorax. Now typical chylothorax, it is because of the high triglyceride. In such condition, cholesterol level will be less. Cholesterol level will be less, not more than, it is depicted wrongly there. Cholesterol level will be less. In typical true chylothorax, triglyceride level will be very high, or total cholesterol level will be more than 4 grams. I mean, yeah, will be more than 4 grams. Not cholesterol. What is it? Fatty acids. The cholesterol level in true chylothorax will be less than 60 milligrams. Okay. Triglyceride will be very high. In pseudochylothorax, triglyceride will be maybe very low, whereas total cholesterol will be very high. But if you take the total fat will be, in both conditions, will be very high. Am I clear, or is it some confusion? Okay, anyway, chylothorax, triglyceride level is very high, more than 110, and total fat is more than 4 grams, whereas total cholesterol will be less than 60 milligrams. Okay. Next slide. So if there is foul smelling indicative of infection, gram staining, empyema, all those things we all know. Amylase, always look for the serum amylase and pleural fluid amylase. If the pleural fluid amylase is more than serum amylase, it indicative of, next slide please, pancreatic ascites, pancreatic pleural fluid. That is common on the left side. That may be hemorrhagic as well. Next please. pH, you need to look for the pH. If it is less than 7.2, always indicate empyema. Sometimes in tuberculosis, rarely in carcinoma, malignancy. If the pH, next slide please. If the pH is very low, say less than 6, it is always indicative of rupture of the esophagus. So that is the slide from the NHJM. The same thing, if it says that if the pleural fluid is more than 10 millimeters, you need, if it is less than that, you can observe. If it is more than that, you need to find out if there is evidence of congestive heart failure. If yes, again, you can give the diuretic and wait for 2 to 3 weeks, or you need to do the thoracosynthesis. You need to apply light criteria to differentiate transudative and exudative. Okay, next slide. Whenever possible, you can do the pleural biopsy, that is with the Abraham's needle. You can do pleural biopsy only if there is pleural effusion. Without pleural effusion, we cannot do the pleural biopsy. So very useful. If the pleural aspiration cytology does not give the result, you can do the pleural biopsy, and at least for 40 to 50% of the time, it will give the positive result. Thoracoscopy is another modality to find out the reason for the pleural effusion. Next slide, please. Indication for the intercostal drainage, like empyema, complicated paraneumonic effusion, because if you do not relieve that complicated paraneumonic effusion, it can lead to the frank empyema, all hemothorax, many of the malignant effusions. Okay. Yes. So what would you do in this your patient, Prajna?
Therapeutic thoracostomy.
Thoracostomy. Why do you want to do thoracostomy and leave it? You can find out by the CT scan, ultrasound, how much of fluid is there first.
Okay, sir.
Okay. And if possible, remove the fluid as much as possible to give the relief, and repeat the X-ray again to find out what is the underlying lung lesion. And we have already almost found out that there is some neoplastic cell, malignant cells are always there. By the cytology, we have already found that. So if the patient, is there any scope for the chemotherapy in this place? Any radiation, any chemotherapy, any surgical role? There may not. To relieve the pleural effusion
can be tried.
Yeah, to relieve the pleural effusion, you can remove the entire pleural effusion and you can do the pleurodesis.
5 minutes. I'm done.
To pleurodesis.
Carry on. I'll come.
Can be done. Okay. Fine. So if it is a renal metastasis, no, patient had a renal cell carcinoma earlier. If it is renal metastasis, you can still try some immunotherapies if the patient is affordable. There's some immunotherapies which give some response to some time. Otherwise, there is no much scope for the therapy at this stage. Okay. So anyway, I think how should I look for the chat box? I'll just see chat box. Okay. Dr. Kishan, anything to be answered in the chat box? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything? Now, somebody was telling about five TEEDS. Somebody was talking about TEEDS disease. I think it was TEEDS disease is a costochondritis with the T inversion the ECG. Okay. It is nothing to relate with the pleuritic pain. That is an anterior pain. Okay. Many of you
someone wants to know about
any
Broca's triangle and Ellis sign, sir. How to elicit Ellis?
Yeah, Ellis sign. Ideally, it should be done in the sitting posture. The patient hand should be on the on the head, elevated to the head level. Axilla should be exposed. You percuss in the mid-axillary line. You note what is the level of dullness. Pleural effusion will always have the dullness. Mark that. Again, in the posterior axillary line, posterior scapular line, you percuss from the top to the below. Find out the highest point of the dullness. And again, in the mid-axillary line, you percuss. Now, what we want to highlight is that the anterior in the intercostal area, in the mid-clavicular line and the scapular line, the dullness will be at the lower level than the mid-axillary line. Okay. That is the way to elicit the Ellis line, S-shaped Ellis line. Okay. Then Broca's triangle, again, wherever you elicit the pleural effusion, suppose if it is on left side, you do all signs on left side. Right side, you cautiously percuss on the infrascapular area, lower interscapular, infrascapular area, paraspinal area for the dullness. It will be extending from the lower lung field, that is 10th intercostal space, above to the level of the pleural effusion, highest level of the pleural effusion. It will be about 1 to 2 inch, and it will be a conical shape. In the top, in the base, it may be extending for about 5 to 6 centimeters. So it is exactly opposite to the side of the pleural effusion. Okay. That may not be seen in every case. It may be seen in only moderate to severe pleural effusion when the posterior mediastinum is shifted. In malignant pleural effusion, when there is a inside the mediastinum is fixed, it may not be elicitable. Can anyone say at what level pleural effusion to be done? It should be done typically at the infrascapular area, 7th or 8th or 9th intercostal space in the scapular line. Okay. So anything else?
Any doubts from any members? Sir, anything called inch method, sir?
Inch method for? Inching method is typically done in the cardiovascular auscultation. When you have some murmur audible somewhere from one area, you can inch to the another area, find out where it is maximum audible. I do not know about the inching method of auscultation or percussion on the this thing. You have something called as fremitus, tactile fremitus. That is something called what is that? Scratch. You know, in your pylorostenosis, you do the to look at the stomach size. What do you do that? What is the test you call that? You put your stethoscope on the epigastrium and
ausculta percussion, sir. Ausculta percussion.
Scratch from the radiating wise, you scratch from the. Similarly, you can do on the posteriorly on the interscapular area. You can scratch to find out the highest level of the pleural effusion as well. Some books explain that. I have forgotten that name. Some what is that? Tactile fremitus, tactile crepitus or something. Some name, strange name is there.
Coin test, sir. Is it coin test?
No, coin test is very typically done to find out the pneumothorax, not for the pleural or hydropneumothorax.
Sir, why there is trepapnea and hematuria in this case, sir?
Okay, trepapnea, because her entire left lung, she does not have hematuria. Now, our student has taken the history of hematuria. That was quite long back, not current. It was diagnosed during 8 years back. She had hematuria. 8 years back, she had hematuria. At which time it was evaluated and found out to be having renal cell carcinoma. That is the commonest way of presentation. Abdominal pain, abdominal mass, and hematuria are the classical triad of the renal cell carcinoma. And for the appropriate for that particular hematuria, they have evaluated and found out that she had renal cell carcinoma and she has undergone nephrectomy. Appropriate treatment has been done. So that is the reason for hematuria in this case. That was the past history, not the current thing. Past medical history, she has mentioned that. That is good. And trepapnea, the entire lung is damaged. The right lung is only, that is also the slight mediastinum shift is there. Right lung is moving, expanding, chest wall is moving. left lung is not ventilating at all, not taking any doing any ventilatory effect action at all. So if the patient lies on the left lateral side, say this patient has got left-sided pleural effusion, left side, right side is free to move. The patient will be comfortably breathing. The chest wall is not splinted.
Member, do you have any questions, sir?
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Yeah. Right side, which was normal lung in this patient, if she lies on the right side, that splinting effect, your entire body weight will be reducing the chest wall movement on the right side. Thereby, the ventilation or aeration will be reduced. So they will produce significant breathlessness. That is the reason for hyperpnea in all massive pleural effusion. Okay. So, anything else? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Prajna, you have taken a good case. You have presented it very well. Keep it up. Keep presenting. Keep discussing. Good. Keep it up.
Thank you,
Any
sir.
other doubts? Anyone can post on the WhatsApp. We'll try to answer it as and when it comes. Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience because of the frequent network problem. Next time I will try to do it from the appropriate place. Sorry, Dr. Kishan. Hello.
No, sir. No, please don't mention.
It's okay. It's okay.
Sir, you are taking classes for us. That's itself a great thing, sir. Amidst your this COVID thing, busy schedule, you are taking so much of class for us. We are really indebted to you, sir. Grateful to you. These small errors doesn't matter, sir. To those who are interested to learn more from you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Kishan. Thank you. If any questions, you
Yes,
can post it on
thank
the
you so
WhatsApp.
much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
Once again, well done, Prajna. Like sir mentioned, you have taken a brilliant history and it was a wonderful presentation. Well done, very well done. And all the other members also, please volunteer for case presentation. We may repeat this presentation, all these cases again and again. So please volunteer. It will help you a lot. You will gain a lot of confidence. How are you feeling now, Prajna? You were apprehensive in the beginning. How are you feeling now?
Good, sir.
Good. Huh?
Your voice doesn't sound good.
I'm fine, sir.
Okay, good. You have done a good job, Prajna. No issue. Good.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Suraj, are you there? Suraj?
Yes, I'm here, Kishan.
Suraj,
Yes.
how did you feel about Prajna's presentation today?
Yes, it was very nice. And thank you so much, sir. Your discussion was very good.
Thank
I
you.
really liked it. Thank you, sir. A lot to learn, sir.
No, it's a continuing process. No, even we
Yes,
have
sir.
to learn every day. Everyone
Yes,
has to
sir.
learn.
Yes,
Once
yes,
we
sir.
enter
Yes.
into this thing, continuing medical education every
Yes,
day.
sir.
Even for preparation, once Prajna has sent me the slides, I go through that. I have to prepare for that. Even I have to learn. It's a good learning opportunity for me also.
Yes,
Good,
sir. Thank
great.
you so much, sir. It was wonderful, sir.
Great. Okay,
Yeah.
bye then.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Let's
sir.
end this at 8 o'clock. Take 10 minutes break. At 8 o'clock, we'll be having a ABG session. Please join us. And tomorrow, we will have a special session about case presentation on peripheral vascular diseases by Mr. Satvik Muralidhar. And again, one eminent examiner and professor from BMCRA is coming as a mentor. Please join us for this that session also. Suraj, you will be with us tomorrow
Definitely,
for that
definitely.
session
Yes.
as a mentor
Yes.
as usual. Nishant also will be joining us. So we'll
Yes.
have a wonderful feast of knowledge tomorrow. And Satvik, are you ready?
I think
Yeah.
he's muted. Yeah, I think he's muted.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway. Almost, it seems. Almost. Anyway. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you,
sir.
Kishan. Thank you.
Yeah. Prajna, may
Sir?
do all the corrections whatever sir told and send me the PPT. I shall share in all the groups. Okay.
Okay, sir.
It was a very nice case presentation, Pragna. Keep it up. Very good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.